This week on Navy Marine Corps News, we bring you the Osprey in action, a nighttime look at basic security guard training, and firefighting on board USS Safeguard. Those stories and more on this edition of Navy Marine Corps News.
From your worldwide Naval Media Center team, from Pier 168, this is Navy Marine Corps News.
Welcome to the program. We have stories from Boston, the Horn of Africa, and Sigonella, Italy. I'm Petty Officer Matt Oldham.
And I'm Sergeant Phil Grondin. Before we get to those stories, here are your headlines ashore and afloat for the week ending Wednesday, March 14th, 2007. Sailors and Marines aboard USS New Orleans manned the rails of the San Antonio-class ship on March 10th. The commissioning ceremony brought the ship to life in its namesake city. This is the first ship to be built and commissioned in its own namesake city since World War II.
The truth is, New Orleans has long been associated with trying times, great challenges, and an irrepressible spirit. That spirit was fully in evidence in the way that Avondale shipyard workers restored production after the devastation of Hurricane Katrina. They completed the mission, and our standing here today is a tribute to their dedication and spirit.
The Marine Corps Special Operations Command celebrates its first anniversary this month. 4 MARSOC foreign military training teams have already returned from successful deployments in support of U.S. SOCOM and the global war on terror.
We begin this week's show with an ending. USS John F Kennedy is set to decommission March 23rd. But before the ship transfers to the inactive reserve, she went on one final underway. Petty Officer Aaron Hebner has more.
USS John F Kennedy recently returned to Mayport, Florida after her last underway. The JFK and her crews have served the country for over 38 years.
When we started to bomb Fallujah, I was driving when the first bird took off. And they even told me on the bridge, we need to keep a straight keel because this is where it all starts.
During the first leg of the voyage, the JFK stopped in Norfolk to offload supplies that won't be needed after decommissioning.
You could say just about everything. Anything that is not bolted down or welded down is going to be offloaded off of this ship.
After the offload, the Kennedy left Norfolk and headed to Boston, the city most associated with the Kennedy name.
It's a pretty good feeling, just like, damn, last stop for the JFK, and I'm on it.
The Kennedy spent 5 days in Boston and then headed for home. Returning to Mayport, Florida for the last time is a milestone in the ship's history.
As the last captain on board this wonderful warship, to see her put away is always going to be a little bit emotional, but this is what we do. This is what our leadership has called on us to do, and this is what we'll do.
The Kennedy is set to decommission March 23rd in Mayport, Florida. For the Naval Media Center, I'm Petty Officer Aaron Hebner.
As the Navy says goodbye to USS John F Kennedy, it says hello to an aircraft that will increase the operational capabilities of the Marine Corps. The Osprey completed its final operational test before deployment. Lance Corporal Robert Durham was at a remote airfield in North Carolina and prepared this story.
For the first time, the MV22 Ospreys of Marine Tiltrotor Squadron 263 had the opportunity to train with the Marine Air Ground Task Force. Marine grunts from 1st Battalion, 8th Marines filled up 4 Ospreys and took to the skies to seize an airfield. The little-known Marine Corps outlying airfield Atlantic was perfect for this venture, as it hosts a variety of Soviet anti-aircraft guns, jet hulks, and surface-to-air missile sites used as enemy emplacements for training. Other Marines were present to act as defenders of the airfield. At exactly 13:07, after a simulated attack run by Harrier jets, the 4 Ospreys descended low over the horizon and offloaded the infantry Marines. For most of the Marines training in this exercise, it was their first time aboard the Osprey. Opinions were mixed.
This was perfect for an Osprey. We didn't come into a hot LZ, but we got here fast over a long distance. Like, we were coming all the way from the airfield in Camp Lejeune, and it was about an hour ride over here with a 43 or a shoot a 53 or a 46, it would probably take them about 2 hours, maybe even 2.5.
Yeah, I like them a lot. They get in and out fast. The only downfall is they don't have the gun coverage, say a 53 or 46 would.
As soon as all the grunts were off the birds, the Ospreys left. The Marines of 1-8 rapidly moved in and engaged the simulated enemy, taking some of them as enemy prisoners of war. The Marines then patrolled the outlying areas of the airfield, keeping a lookout for enemy stragglers and snipers, and setting up communications. They then headed out to the LZ for their exfiltration and awaited the return of the Osprey. When the birds were full, they disappeared into the horizon at high speed. From North Carolina, for the Naval Media Center, I'm Lance Corporal Robert Durham.
For more than 20 years, the Navy has used the RQ-2A Pioneer for a variety of recon, surveillance, target acquisition, and battle damage assessment missions. The 14-foot unmanned aerial vehicle has flown over Lebanon, Bosnia, and Somalia. It has also supported operations Iraqi and Enduring Freedom. Recently, at Naval Air Station Patuxent River, Maryland, the Pioneer flew its last flight for the Navy.
Today we're here for the last flight of the RQ-2B Pioneer unmanned air vehicle by VC-6. This aircraft's been in service since 1986. This is our last flight here. The Marine Corps will continue to fly this for probably about another year. From here we're transitioning on to the Army Shadow UAV system.
Probably heading out to Iraq. It is providing intelligence and providing reconnaissance on the global war on terrorism.
The command is actually decommissioning in June of 2008. So when our last 2 platoons complete and return from Iraq in about that same time frame, they'll come back and the squadron will be decommissioning just shortly thereafter.
So it's sort of an end of an era of the large squadron running external pilots landing on runways. So that's kind of a closing the chapter.
The newer stuff, newer technology that's out there, it's a lot better. Flies longer, faster, and the payloads are a lot different, a lot easier to use.
So there's some history here that these guys are very proud of, as they should be, and I'm proud of them for doing it. This chapter is closing, but you're seeing the guys that are here today are going to be writing all the previous or the follow-on pages to Navy UAVs as they go on to Shadow and other Navy UAVs like Fire Scout, Scan Eagle, and other Tier 2 platforms that are out there. So you're looking at the future of naval air, and it's right here in these sailors that did such a great job with this platform.
Navy Marine Corps News will be back with stories from the Horn of Africa and Chesapeake, Virginia after this message.
Goodwill and communication skills are vital between nations united in the war on terror. Marines of the 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit, alongside Djiboutian Army soldiers, recently wrapped up 5 days of training in their area of operation. Corporal Jeremy Ross shows us how these skills were learned and sharpened during Exercise Image Nautilus 07.
The 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit wrapped up 5 days of bilateral training with the Djiboutian Army at Mariam Range, Djibouti, February 14th. During the training, part of Exercise Image Nautilus 07, more than 60 troops from the MEU's Light Armored Reconnaissance and Combined Anti-Armor Team platoons worked alongside 45 Djiboutian soldiers to fire nearly every weapon in the MEU's arsenal. The goal of the training was to build goodwill and communication between the two nations' militaries.
The biggest goal, I think, overall, is for us to be able to come here to this AO and come to this country and just really working with foreign relations, so to speak. Us, the United States military, being able to train them, bring their skill levels up on some skill sets that we're more proficient in, and as well learn some of the skills that they use out here. I mean, this is their backyard, so learn how they operate as well.
After giving the Djiboutians a taste of American weapon systems, the Marines got a chance to fire the host nation's weapons as well. The troops also sharpened their precision rifle tactics during an enhanced marksmanship program shoot. Image Nautilus marked the first time the MEU has operated ashore since deploying January 6th as the landing force for the Bataan Expeditionary Strike Group. For the 26th MEU, I'm Corporal Jeremy Ross.
Last week, we saw how the Basic Security Guard Marines of the Marine Corps Security Force Training Company conducted their final exercise. In that report, Marines trained during the day. Sergeant Phil Grondin shows us what happened as night fell during the exercise.
Under the cover of darkness, Marines respond to insurgent attacks.
Vehicle-borne IED that was brought into the not brought into the compound, brought into the front gate, the vehicle entrapment area. The IED was set off, which triggered a small arms attack by 10 to 12 insurgents that tried to flood the gate.
At that time, we had, at the south gate, we had a truck basically going how can you say it, front speed into the barricade, all right? So at one time, we had 2 instances.
The call went out for the REACT Force. REACT Force has a maximum time of 5 minutes. They were out in about a minute once the call went out that the front gate was compromised. They then proceeded from this hatchway here, which caused a flanking motion on the insurgents.
Be advised, we detain 1 personnel. Taking over to the freaking collection site, over.
Roger.
Drop your weapon! Drop the weapon! Drop the weapon! Drop the weapon! Drop the weapon! Break. Recover the bodies.
Great command and control. They used the terrain and used the buildings to actually flank instead of going head-to-head with the opposition. But as a whole, it was an outstanding effort, and the end result was a success.
Skills learned here will benefit Marines later in their careers.
Standing post, Marines will stand post throughout their Marine Corps career, and they'll take what they've learned here, and they'll be able to stand post any climb, any place.
For the Naval Media Center, I'm Sergeant Phil Grondin. You would think the audience of Navy Marine Corps News knows all about the Navy, but do they? There are, however, other types of sailors whom we know very little about. I'm talking about merchant Marines, civilian sailors who contribute greatly to naval operations. As we learn in this next report, they do much more than what many people might think.
Every day, civilian sailors, known as merchant Marines, captain ships, stand watches, and brave the elements in support of the United States Navy. For the crew of submarine support ship Carolyn Schuest, it's another day on the job, and another opportunity to showcase how effective Navy and civilian sailors can work together.
I think it's 50-50, us helping each other out, you know. It's kind of like the saying, you scratch my back, I scratch your back, but in the same way, they need something, they'll come to us and ask for it, and if we need something, we don't hesitate to ask these guys for it.
Navy and civilian sailors working together is an important element to SSV Carolyn Schuest's primary mission, which is to support the Navy's nuclear research submarine NR-1. In this case, Schuest will be towing NR-1 to Galveston, Texas, where the two will take part in an expedition of the Flower Garden Bank's Marine Sanctuary in the Gulf of Mexico.
Flower Garden Bank and working with Dr. Bao and the Navy on things like this is very positive for me and for the crew, because we get to reach a lot of young people and say, listen, this is not, the Navy's not only the Navy as you see them, you know, on the posters. They're different than that. They take, you know, they get involved in scientific operations, exploration operations. I mean, it's great for us.
Since NR-1 is often involved with high-profile research missions, having an outstanding support ship is very important. And without the merchant Marines, maintaining NR-1 would cost the Navy a lot more money and manpower.
I think a perfect example is this vessel has 13 crew. That's what our certificate of inspection from the Coast Guard says we have to crew this vessel, and that's what we maintain. The vessel that we took over from had a crew of 58. Just the saving in payroll alone, never mind the maintenance of the vessel, I think will show you that, yeah, we're very cost effective.
But aside from the financial gain, Navy sailors have a lot to gain as well when working with civilian sailors.
We work real close with the NR-1 crew, and there's a lot of things that, you know, they may have a different answer to than we do, and vice versa, and I think that the two entities working together works out real well for us.
The crew that works on board the SSV is outstanding. They know what they're doing. I mean, they've done this for most of their life. A lot of them are former Navy sailors and have worked around the Merchant Marines for a number of years.
Throughout the expedition, The civilian crew of SHU West will work hand in hand with the Navy crew of NR1 to make sure the mission is a success for everyone involved. From Fleet Public Affairs Center Atlantic, I'm Petty Officer Brandon Sheelander.
Now here's Petty Officer Oldham with your fleet information.
The Secretary of the Navy recently outlined his vision of sound financial management for members of the Navy team. Expanding on Secretary Winter's vision, every sailor is encouraged to embark on a financial readiness program that includes cash savings, avoiding and reducing their credit card debt, and investing to promote their future financial stability and retirement. Marines and sailors are encouraged to give generously to the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society during the annual call for contributions. This relief organization, comprised of 3,400 volunteers and a small professional staff, is available 24/7 to help with unexpected needs and personal emergencies. The U.S. Naval Test Pilot Page School Selection Board is scheduled to convene July 24th. This board will select highly qualified naval aviators and naval flight officers for the U.S. Naval Test Pilot School. A complete application letter and command endorsement must be received by NPC no later than June 11th. For more information, see NAVADMIN 061/7. Navy Marine Corps News will return after this.
The United States Navy is the most powerful naval force on the planet. With such power comes a responsibility to help other nations in the form of exchange exercises. Seaman Vivian Shepard was on board USS The Sullivans during training with the Turkish Navy.
Sailors aboard the USS The Sullivans prepare for a visit, board, search and seizure, or VBSS, drill with a Turkish frigate as part of theater security and cooperative training exercises with other NATO countries. Petty Officer Stephen Hefke explains why this team would have to board a foreign ship.
If there's a vessel of interest, somebody possibly contributing to terrorism, smuggling drugs, weapons, humans, things of that sort.
Even though the team was unable to board the Turkish ship due to high winds and rough seas, they didn't waste the opportunity for the extra training. They conducted the VBSS aboard the Sullivans. Lieutenant Junior Grade Dale Liskey is the liaison officer for the VBSS boarding team. He said the team did very well.
A lot of things have to come together for a VBSS mission, planning, coordination, and getting the team prepared. So this time we actually gave ourselves a little more time to account for all that, and with all the moving parts going on, we were actually able to make a pretty seamless boarding on ourselves.
These sailors must go through an 11-week training course in order to be a part of the VBSS team. Lieutenant Chris Lyons is the team's boarding officer. He said the training is given in their home port of Mayport.
Instructed by former SEALs and Marine Force Recon, the ones that actually used to do the job as a profession, since the war on terror has kind of spread them out a little thin, and they've moved the job down to the regular sailors.
The boarding team will conduct several more VBSS exercises during their current deployment. From the USS Sullivans, I'm Seaman Vivian Shepard.
Fire. It's no secret that it's one of the most feared and dangerous enemies of a sailor. On board USS Safeguard, sailors respond to this known factor through training. Seaman Kyle Karlstrom brings us more.
During deployment, USS Safeguard conducted several drills, including a damage control drill. The drill puts sailors into a real-life scenario if a fire ever broke out on the ship. Putting the sailors into this type of exercise lets upper chain of command know where their crew is with experience.
Fire is the biggest danger, and we generally train about once a month for the main space fire drills. And the drills are basically to test people's proficiency in being able to fight a major class Bravo fire in the main space, which is our biggest threat.
Damage controlman Tony Cook is an on-site leader for Repair Party 2, and it is his job to take control of the scene and make sure that his fire party properly relieves Repair Team 3. He must also make sure that there is no unnecessary personnel on scene to cause additional problems. Cook is confident in the teams.
Our teams are excellent. I don't have much worries as a scene leader. You know, my team is well trained, so is my team leader, which pretty much takes care of everything down there in the space or whatever casualty it may be.
Along with the confidence Cook has, he also believes that these drills are vital.
We're constantly training, drilling, so in that aspect it pays off a lot. Of course, you can never get enough training here.
For Franks, this drill stands out.
It went very well. This is one of the best drills we've run since I've been executive officer for 2 years on the ship. So the training has definitely paid off.
Having such success on these type of damage control drills gives the crew the edge they will need if a real fire ever does occur. Seaman Kyle Karlstrom, Sasebo, Japan.
Amidst the regular routine of drills and underway watches, the crew of USS Safeguard pulled into the port of Kagashima, Japan. In his second report, Seaman Kyle Karlstrom shows us how these sailors help some Japanese orphans and share experiences in a cultural exchange.
USS Safeguard sailors visited the youth of Wakaba Gakuen Children's Home during their stay in Kagashima. After everybody was introduced to each other, the Safeguard crew handed out candy to the kids, putting smiles on everyone's faces. Conducting these visits is something the sailors of Safeguard look forward to.
I think it's really important that we do this COMREL, part of emerging ourselves in the culture here in Japan. And I'm very proud to say that here in Safeguard, we do a lot of COMREL. The personnel here, especially the younger people, are pushing for it, especially orphanage.
During the trip, nearly 1/3 of Safeguard sailors participated in the trip to the home. While there, members interacted with the kids through arts and crafts and sports.
I always like to play with the children, man. I love kids, so to have the opportunity to get out and go out and play with the kids and get to see them and show them things that we do, teach them how to play some sports and do some origami. It was a beautiful experience.
Damage controlman Tony Cook says he was glad to be part of the COMREL and be able to interact with the kids and make a difference.
Just coming back into the Navy, that's one of the things that I wanted to do as far as coming to Japan, is community relations. You know, being able to play with the orphans is an awesome thing. See them smile, see them get a new outlook on life, you know, especially with the U.S. sailors going over there.
The success of the visit has put a positive outlook on the U.S. Navy.
We made a very good impact. They have a good impression of how Americans are. Even the guys that I talk to still talk about it.
USS Safeguard sailors hope to continue to build a friendship with the Japanese through future community events. Seaman Kyle Karlstrom, Sasebo, Japan.
That's Navy Marine Corps news for this week. To get more news and information about the Marine Corps, visit marines.mil.
And for photos, stories, or the latest news, go to Navy.mil. Plus, you can download video news, radio news, and vidbits in podcast format. For everyone at the Naval Media Center, thanks for watching. We'll see you about the fleet.